Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, our special guest is Public Health Officer Dr. Scott Harris. Also, the V Team takes a look at Democrats on mute. And Governor Kay Ivey didn't back down on her mask order.
Why are you wearing a mask? Were you burned by acid or something like that?
Oh no, it's just they're terribly comfortable. I think everyone will be wearing them in the future.
Wear them. It saves lives, and it looks oh so attractive. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR, and Susan Britt, my constant companion and research guru extraordinary.
Hey.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Hey, Josh.
Hey, guys.
Before we get into the show, I want to say that we learned on Friday, early Friday morning, that President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania were diagnosed with COVID-19. Leaders all over the state, the nation, and the world have sent their best regards and sympathies and prayers to the President and First Lady. From all of us at the V, we hope all the best for the First family. Josh, it has been a crazy week. We had a debate that could be called nothing less than...
Is that what we're calling it, a debate? Okay.
Well, it was extraordinary. If a debate team at Harvard and Yale had one of those, they'd close the schools down. But we did have one. President Trump has nominated for Republicans a very appetizing Supreme Court justice, and for Democrats a disaster. We've had a lot going on, but what we haven't heard is anything from Alabama Democrats. I mean, it has been silent, Susan, to the point of, we were talking yesterday about when the debates were over, we were looking for comments from the Democratic leaders of our state, and there was nothing, whereas there were 200 from Republicans. I mean, Josh, what is the party thinking? Or do you have any idea?
Well, yeah, I think we're still in the infancy stage of the growth of the Democratic Party since we started over, and I think they've missed a lot of opportunities, and we've talked about this before, where they missed a lot of opportunities during the conventions to come out and release some statements and get their voice heard about what's going on nationally, and to have some sort of a say in the conversation, to swing people and point out things, that just aren't getting out there right now. And I think they're missing a lot of these opportunities. And this one is another one. I mean, the president said some pretty crazy things, and especially as far as Democrats are going, and as far as a lot of moderates are going. The stuff about not denouncing white supremacy, and that was that was teed up, man. I mean, hit it out of the park, and they didn't.
Well, I think, Susan, if you looked at the Republican response, I mean, it was spot on. They defended the president. Mm-hmm. They said, some of them said, well, you might not like his style. A lot of people do like his style. They gave him high marks and all that. Perfect opportunity for the Democrats to come out and say, no. Here's what we think,
yes.
Right?
And the ALGOP, during the entire debate, they were sending out tweets, they were doing all this, and there was nothing from the Democrats. There was no response even during the debate, and a Twitter war.
Well, I just think if you're going to be the opposition party, you have to oppose something.
Yeah, I would agree completely, and you're right. I mean, there were the thing about it that was kind of frustrating to me is I think a majority of people, even in this state, were probably turned off by the president's performance and the way he behaved himself. I mean, I think Chris Wallace was turned off by it, and I think he's kind of indicative of a moderate Republican. And so I think that was a real opportunity to get in the ear of some of those people and say, hey, by the way, we're here. We're over here if you'd like to hear some more stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you don't offer anybody an alternative, then why would they care? And the thing is, the Democratic Party in Alabama will never win an election trying to be Republican light. No. It just doesn't work. You're going to have something that you stand for and that you do it day after day after day. And the Republicans in 2009, 2008, 2009, 2010, every time the Democrats said anything, someone was out there in front of cameras going, wait a minute, we've got a better way, we've got another idea.
And it worked.
And it worked.
It worked.
I think the state would benefit greatly by having two parties with competing ideas. We just need to hear more. It is not that Anthony Daniels, Chris England, and Patricia Todd are without voices or without opinions or are not intelligent. They are all those things plus.
Yeah. And listen, they have good ideas. That's the thing that frustrates me. Talking to them is they have good ideas. And there are people out there who need to hear their ideas because it is good for those people. The majority of people, the working class people in Alabama, would be aided by the Democratic approach to governance in a lot of cases. And for them not to hear that option is frustrating.
Well, if you stay silent, you only have one voice out there. That's the only voice you hear.
That's true.
Secretary of State John Merrill said that we are on track to far exceed the number of absentee ballots. So far, there's been over 100,000 requested so far, and 35,000 plus have been returned. So he's saying that his office will begin counting the ballots. They expect between 150, 175,000. Susan, he said their office will start counting November 3rd, early in the morning. They should have everything wrapped up by the time the polls close or soon after.
One could hope so. That's a whole lot of ballots.
It is, but they've got machines that count them, and John Merrill has been very effective in that office. I mean, say what you will about him, he has been very effective. But this judge's order, Josh, we only got about a minute, has left some confusion because now there's the ID requirement and curbside ballots and all that are available, and it is a bit confusing. We need a little bit more clarity on that, I think.
Yeah, I think that what should happen here is given the state on where we are, if we could do anything to make it safer and more convenient for people to do this, and still protect the sanctity of the elections here. If we could do that, then I think that whatever they can do should be done. Okay, and so I think that's what we need to strive towards. And this fighting back and forth and leaving this thing hanging out and going, appealing it back and forth, I don't think that's serving anybody. Get together, figure out what we can do, and let's do it.
All right. Well, that's going to have to be the last word on that. We do need clarity. You're watching The voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest today is Dr. Scott Harris, Public Health Officer. We'll be right back.
The United States was built on the foundations of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Millions of people have defended these pillars of our democracy.
Please remember the sacrifice made by these Americans and make time to register to vote and obtain a government photo ID so you too can vote on November 3rd.
Voting is a sacred right. Sacrifices made by those who so bravely serve our country should never be forgotten.
Hey man, what are you doing today?
Play the game. Thought I'd go out for a drive later maybe. Text some friends while I'm doing it. Scroll through social media. Kill a family 4 and a head-on collision.
Cool, man.
Drive safe, Alabama.
A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
I'm John Merrill. As your Secretary of State, I will ensure that all Alabamians have the opportunity to participate in safe, secure, and fair elections. Due to the ongoing pandemic, anyone that wants to be an absentee voter should select the box on the application which reads, "I have a physical illness or infirmity which prevents my attendance at the polls." After enclosing a copy of your valid photo ID and following the directions completely, your voice will be heard and your vote will be counted. Through absentee, we'll see you at the polls.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest today is State Health Officer Dr. Scott Harris. Dr. Harris, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. I know y'all have had a busy week. We learned on Friday morning that President Donald Trump and the First Lady Melania have contracted COVID-19. I think this underscores a lot of what you've been saying all along, that this disease knows no boundaries. It affects people all over the country, here in Alabama as well. How are we doing in the spread of the disease and doing better care for folks that do get sick?
Yeah, I think that overall we're certainly better than we were a couple of months ago, but we still have a long way to go. There's a lot of improvement that we still hope to see. We have we're sort of on the order of 900 to 1,000 new cases a day being reported to us for about the past month or so, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. That's about half of where we were at the end of July, first part of August, if you remember. And similarly, the hospitals have about half the number of COVID inpatients now that they had back at that time as well. We had more than 1,600 patients in the hospital, on any given day, back during the sort of peak of summer. And now it's around 750 to 800. And so that's, a number our hospitals can handle. So, we do feel better about that. I think we have seen the number just a little bit increasing over the past several days. Instead of having 700 or 800 new cases, we're having 800, 900 to 1,000 new cases. That's not a huge percentage difference, but it just makes us want to be cautious. We're not trying to declare any kind of victory because we still have a long ways to go.
Sure, I understand. And we're really facing flu season now. I mean, all the drugstores, hospitals, doctors' offices have the flu shots available, as far as I know. And what are your recommendations on getting a flu shot, and how might that affect state overall health and healthcare workers?
I appreciate the chance to talk about this. Everyone needs to get a flu shot. It's recommended for everyone ages 6 months and up. Even if you're allergic to the flu shot, there are probably ways you can still safely get one, and you can have that discussion with your doctor about how to do that. There's no better way to prevent the flu than to do this. We have never lived through COVID and flu combined before. The world's never seen that happen. And so we really just don't know what to expect. But we know that anyone who develops flu symptoms is probably going to be assumed to have COVID, at least at first, and there's going to be needs for testing. There are going to be people who are going to be told to isolate and quarantine, that there are going to be contacts involved, and it may turn out to be the flu and not COVID at all. And if we can just prevent cases of influenza, it'll make life so much simpler with respect to COVID. On top of that, I think it's very likely that people can get both at the same time. We don't know that for sure, but most physicians believe that, and that may be a really bad situation to be in. So please get a flu shot. I've had one, and everyone needs to get one as soon as you can. They're out there and available.
Well, it is important. Susan and I have gotten ours. We're certainly encouraging all the folks that we know to get theirs as well.
That's great.
We keep hearing some encouraging news that there will be a vaccine in the near future, whether it comes this month or next month or after the first of the year. We don't know for certain right now. What we do know is that y'all have gotten some instructions on how to deal with the vaccine once it's released. Could you tell our viewers a little bit how that process is going to work?
Sure. Well, we've known, Bill, for several months that, this would be a great big project that would require a whole lot of logistical, handling to figure out. And we've been working on that, regularly, steadily. But for the past month or so, we've really ramped that up, and we're in contact with our federal partners every single day, working on a plan. There are 4 vaccines right now that are in the final phases of studies, what people call phase 3 trials, to make sure that they're safe and also effective. Every person we have talked to in the federal government has indicated the same thing, which is there probably will be some product out before the end of this calendar year, maybe in November or December possibly, but there won't be nearly enough. And it'll be the spring or early summer before we see large amounts of vaccine. What will be confusing is there will probably be multiple vaccine products that all come out around the same time, and not everybody will be eligible to take every one of them. For example, some of these vaccines have trials where they're studying them in people who are older only, and some of them are studying people who are younger but maybe have chronic health problems or maybe have immune system problems. So depending on how those vaccines get approved for use, one vaccine won't be the same for every person. And whichever one you start with, you'll need to stick with, because most of them are going to require multiple shots. And so it's going to be a big confusing picture for a while. And I think the part that we're really sort of agonizing over now is we're working on a way to prioritize who gets it first. When you prioritize who gets it first, that's the same thing as saying you're deciding who's not going to get it. And that's a real, difficult situation to be in. But obviously we want to protect those people who are most vulnerable to the disease, people with chronic health problems, people who are seniors. And then we also want to remember the people who are just exposed the most, like our healthcare workers as well. So I think those are going to be priority groups for us.
Well, we're all hoping for a miracle cure, or at least a vaccine that we can see an end to this. We've got about a minute. Governor Kay Ivey, at your advice and those of our healthcare professionals, has extended the mask ordinance, which we applaud the governor for doing that. We know that masks do help people stay safe. Do you have any thoughts on why you did that, and just quickly why it's important?
Sure. Well, I also really commend the governor for doing that. It was the right thing to do for Alabama. Bill, since back in May, there have been no new restrictions in our state. I mean, everything has only gotten more open, with the exception of the mask ordinance. And when the mask ordinance went into place in July, that's the first time we saw a big movement in the right direction in terms of cases and hospitalizations and our percent positive rate and everything. It's the only thing we've done since, this all began right after the stay-at-home order expired. And yet it's made a tremendous difference in where our numbers are going. So there's clear evidence that it works. We think it's the right thing to do. And I'm just very, very pleased that she was able to do that as well.
Well, Dr. Harris, we thank you for all your hard work on behalf of all Alabamians. And we certainly appreciate Governor Ivey's taking your advice and staying strong. Thank you for joining us, and come back soon, okay?
Great. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy seeing you, and you guys keep safe.
We will. You too.
Take care.
You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest has been State Health Officer, Dr. Scott Harris. We'll be right back.
As we celebrate 100 years of women's suffrage, we reflect upon a time when we could not register to vote nor hold public office. But now, we have the privilege of representing the people of Alabama in the state legislature.
We must continue to educate and empower women, because together we can continue to shatter records and overcome barriers.
Register to vote and obtain your photo ID so you too can exercise your right to vote on November 3rd.
What are you doing today, babe?
I thought I'd head down to the lake with the guys, do a little fishing. Of course, none of us will be wearing our seat belts. I'll lose control of the truck, wrap it around a tree, and kill us all.
Okay.
Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
I'm John Merrill. As we prepare for the general election during the pandemic, it is important for Alabamians to step up and become poll workers. Poll workers are paid officials who protect the rights of registered voters at the polls. Contact your probate judge to learn more or apply online at alabamavotes.gov. If you're 16 or older and enrolled in high school or college, you can apply to become a student poll worker by contacting your probate judge or our office. We'll see you at the polls.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. You know, Dr. Scott Harris made it abundantly clear, Susan, that masks are working. Since the mask ordinance was instituted, the cases of COVID-19 have dropped. While they're still high in the state, we have definitive proof that they are working, but there are some people who do not like the mask. But Kay Ivey she's extended the statewide mask order despite getting pressure from the right wing of the Republican Party.
Yes, and nobody likes the masks. Okay, let's be honest, nobody likes them. But no, I was so proud of her the other day when we knew that we got from multiple sources that there was a lot of pressure being put on her to open everything up. Just open everything up going into this election, and she stood her ground and said, I don't think so. This is my state, these are my people, and I'm going to protect them as best as I can despite the election. And I was so proud of her.
Well, Josh, I mean, in 1776, give me liberty or give me death was a pretty good slogan. I don't know that it's a good public health policy, but there are some people who just think that, that their rights, their liberties are being taken by being told they have to wear a mask in public.
You got to wear pants. I mean, how is that any different? I don't understand. Really, put a mask on your face and protect people. I've never understood this thing about the mask. I mean, yeah, I don't like it. I don't like wearing the thing. I don't like the way it smells after 3 minutes. It's terrible. I mean, really, it is. But at the same time, it's not the end of the world. Put the thing on, protect a few people, and don't be an idiot. I don't understand how don't be an idiot can't catch on.
Well, I wrote a column the other day that said that congratulating Governor Ivey for the mask order, and talked about how this is just basic science. It's basic decency to protect your neighbor, and that's what you're doing. You're protecting your neighbor and yourself to some degree. And I got an email from a lady, Sue, who said that the people who didn't wear masks would outlive those of us who did wear masks because of Darwin. And I thought, which part of Darwin's theory does idiocy play into, right?
Well, that's evolution. The one time the people of Alabama ever believed in evolution. Honestly, man. I've heard that stuff too about how much sicker people are going to be after this is all over because we've quarantined and wore masks and stuff. Yeah. That's so idiotic. Talk to one scientist about the thing. Read anything, and you're going to see how idiotic that is. That's not how it works at all. Yes, over a course of a time, you build up immunity to certain things, but you're going to do it in 6 months.
No.
And you're not going to build up an immunity to COVID-19 before you're dead.
Well, the crazy thing is, all right, so one of the people that's leading the charge on, saying that mask ordinances are terrible, that any restrictions are terrible because they're an affront to personal liberty, is former Chief Justice Roy Moore. Roy Moore is leading the charge on this, not surprisingly.
Got sassy right up at the front of the line with his little pistol. Yeah.
Well, the little pistol says something, right? But really, if you think about it, when did this, there's a lot of good Republicans that are following the lead of former Chief Justice Roy Moore on this thing. And I'm telling you, Susan, it sounds more like the John Birch Society these days than the Republican Party of just a few years ago. It's outrageous.
It is, and let's not forget he loves to chase a headline.
Yeah.
He always has, he's from Etowah County, and he started right over here in the Etowah County Courthouse. Let's not forget that.
Josh, I think this live free or die slogan means they're free to do whatever the heck they want to do, and you're the one that's doing the dying. So I'm not sure.
It's a bunch of children, is what it is. It's a bunch of children who've been told that they can't do something, and so now they're rebelling about having to be forced to do it. And that's all that it is. They don't care about somebody else. They're just going to act like a bunch of kids and do this sort of thing. And if Roy Moore is your leader, then I think that speaks for itself.
Well, it's just sad that we cannot reach agreement on something as simple as wearing a mask to protect other folks. I mean, people don't like seatbelts, but it's the law, right? They don't like seatbelts, it's the law. I mean, people would like to, at the beach, go into restaurants with no shirts and no shoes. It's the law. You can't do that. So
I mean, I didn't like the seatbelt laws when they were trying to pass them. I thought that was an infringement on my personal, right to choose whether I wore one or not. But when it passed as a law, I wore a seatbelt.
Well, the difference between the mask and the seatbelts is the insurance lobby wasn't pushing the mask. They were pushing the seatbelts, right?
They should be.
Need to get a good COVID lobbyist going here, and then we have the whole thing solved.
There you go.
We got about a minute and a half here, but if the election were, we talk about counting ballots in Alabama, but if the election were held today, President Trump would win in a landslide. We know this is a fact. We could declare President Trump the winner today.
But do we?
In Alabama?
In Alabama, yeah, I think so.
I've seen a bunch of polling about things around in different states, the South Carolina poll being one of them. Right. Where he is up by only 3 points there. And it makes me wonder, because he's also underwater in this state in terms of handling the COVID crisis. And so it makes me wonder how much of a landslide it would be at this point.
Well, this is the only, this state voted for Goldwater, okay?
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying he's not going to win. Don't get me wrong about that. I'm not in any way saying that. I'm just saying I wonder how much of a landslide it's going to be.
Well, the last time the state voted for a Democrat was 1976 when Jimmy Carter ran, and they learned their lesson, right?
The nicest man in the history of the world? Yeah.
Well, we can't have that. We don't like that.
Apparently.
No. But we've got about 40 seconds. The question was, where does this leave Doug Jones? Does he have a shot, Josh? Are you seeing anything that says he has a shot?
Look, Doug's not going to get beat by Tommy Tuberville. Doug's going to get beat by a straight ticket voter if he gets beat. And that's just the sad truth of the thing here. He's a better candidate. He's more qualified. He's more educated. He's better at the job. He will be better at the job. And there's nobody right now who is against Doug Jones who can tell you why they're against him.
Well, Tommy Tuberville is outraged by everything that the right is outraged about. And he doesn't know anything else but that.
That's because he's reading it off his cue cards.
Well, if he has those. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.